Wanna get away? Trying to flee your current living situation before the makes travel forbidden? We'll crack open any cold one you want,
As long as it's a Corona.
and mosey on down to the town that never sleeps unless it's nighttime. Of course, I'm talking about the one and only Pound Town. Complete with unfortunate cliff sides. Pound Town. Sport ball littered green space. Pound Town. Occultist pond that tells you to plant more trees. Pound Town. Schmooze with the locals. Just make sure your pockets are fat or they'll tell you how poor you are, you peasant. Take that phone off the hook, dial 1-800-NOOK, and call today to book. Pound Town. Question how you value yourself. Ask any Animal Crossing fan. Describing what you do in it is hard. We've all been there. Okay, so you're a human, childish kind of person and you set off to live on your own with no plan whatsoever and get bamboozled into taking out a loan from this raccoon that isn't a raccoon, it's a tanuki, and you gotta sell oranges and fossils to pay this loan while you collect furniture while you ignore the crippling weight of endless debt and write letters to animals before they get mad. You got it? Yeah, it sounds a little bit insane. But Animal Crossing has always been greater than the sum of its parts. But unless you play it, you don't really get it. So when I flipped my lid clean off when Animal Crossing New Horizons was announced, my girlfriend asked me what all the fuss was about. I too had the impossible task of explaining Animal Crossing to her. So instead of going down this rabbit hole and trying to explain to her how a game based around doing chores essentially is a good-ass time, I figured we'd pop in the game that started it all, Animal Crossing for the GameCube, and give it a go. Yes, I'm aware that it was an N64 game in Japan first, so please stop typing at me, thanks. This became an interesting experiment because while she has never played a single game in the series, I started my time with Animal Crossing in Wild World, skipping the first game entirely. On one hand, she experienced the series with fresh eyes, while I try to face the fact that some quality of life improvements from far later in the series are absent entirely. So without any further ado, here is my girlfriend Kaylee with her thoughts on Animal Crossing.
Before playing Animal Crossing, I thought it was like The Sims with animals. It kinda is, but it kinda isn't. It's really relaxing and there aren't any stakes. You kinda just do what you want. I really love the characters and their designs are really cute. Their voices are sped up and warbly, and so many of their names are puns. Like you have characters like Jeremiah the bullfrog, Angus the cow, Billy the goat, and Amelia the eagle. But in our home, Pound Town, everyone is mean because apparently we got really unlucky with character personalities. Especially this cat named Olivia who kept calling us poor.
You're poor. 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 You're poor.
It's almost like naming a village in a game initially made for kids Pound Town put a curse on us. But the nice people we really liked. Characters like Tabby and Jeremiah were cool. And liking your villagers was half the battle because a lot of the game is about running around and doing errands for the villagers.
I was worried about playing Animal Crossing with someone else because I didn't think it was going to be a game that lent itself to passing off the controller, but boy, was I wrong. As the game went on and we learned how to fill out our time, we started making up metafictional stories about the villagers, like how all of the errands we were asked to do led back to Boris having all the items in town, and to get away with hoarding them all, he locked himself in an igloo and deflected conversations by constantly changing the subject back to soup. And while we did get a real kick out of that for a while, it really started to limit how much we could accomplish each day because we couldn't get new tasks until we finished the other ones.
Overall, the abrasive personalities were very funny, especially since I knew going into it that the villagers were supposed to be nice. But while I had someone playing with me who told me that wasn't normal, I could imagine it might be kind of jarring to a kid who was expecting a fun little romp with some woodland creatures instead of getting bullied by a cat. Animal Crossing is a lot about collecting. You collect fish, fossils, paintings, and bugs. My favorite thing to collect were the gyroids, these wiggling noisemakers that you dig up. However, due to the limited space in my home and a lack of a real storage system, I never had anywhere to put them. Well, we found places to put them, but our house wasn't exactly good looking. For some reason, I struggled with fishing at first, but I eventually got better at it with some practice. We rarely saw any bugs, but that might be on account of winter in our game. The biggest hindrance to collecting was having to send fossils away to be analyzed because Blathers couldn't identify them himself. You had to send them away to be identified, and it would take a full day to get some back, and it was limited to 3 a day.
On our first day, we sent a full post office load and then another half. So not only did it take days to get them back, but there was also this huge backlog of fossils that never seemed to end. I take instant identification from Wild World and on for granted at this point, and it's hard to go back, especially with the limit of 3 fossils per day.
The first thing I think of when I think of Animal Crossing is Tom Nook. He affects my psyche. I love him for helping me out, expanding my home, selling me furniture, and allowing me to make money. But just as quickly as he gives, he takes away. I will never be able to pay off my debt to him. It's just too high. I don't understand his valuations for selling things either. He'll give me 300 bells for a bass, but 1,300 for a tadpole. Why? I don't think he's a bad guy like a lot of people online do. He's like the Mr. Krabs of Animal Crossing. He's lovable, but kind of a jerk. And you can't do anything with Tom Nook without bells being involved.
Poor. You shop at my business is poor.
A simple expansion of my home was 148,000 bells, and I didn't even get a basement or another floor. At the same time, there's no timeline for paying him off, yet he's always making comments about how much you owe him. After looking at what I've said about the game, I feel like it sounds like I don't like it, but that isn't true at all. After playing the game, the stuff I really liked outweighed the minor nitpicks I have about it, especially knowing that most of them are addressed and fixed in later games. I'm looking forward to playing a lot of New Horizons.
So now that you've heard her thoughts, I just wanted to throw in a couple of my own. Animal Crossing on GameCube feels very limited, as it should. It was the first in the series. But it's kind of like going back to Smash Bros. On N64. It's playable, you'll have fun with it for a while, but if you played any of the others, you know there's better ones out there. That said, if you've never played a single Animal Crossing game before and only have a GameCube lying around, the original Animal Crossing could be a lot worse. There's still a lot to love about it, and at its heart you realize that it was the start to this amazing series, and what a great start it was. You can still enjoy this game, if anything, just because you can appreciate its humble beginnings. When I was a kid playing Wild World for the first time and New Leaf many years later, my village always felt like this utopia that would be fun to live in, especially since some of the harder-edged characters had been sanded down into being nicer. Playing Animal Crossing for GameCube, on the other hand, now that I'm 25, feels a lot more reflective on actual life. You may not initially love the town you've moved to at first. You may get into debt. And frankly, you might not be able to stand any of your neighbors. Your furniture might not match because you can't afford nicer things, and your first apartment or home, in this game's sense, begins to feel claustrophobic. So you lock yourself in your room and play some NES games. While I love the games that came after, I find it almost refreshing how earnest of a look this game is at venturing off on your own for the first time, trying to make your way financially and building relationships from scratch. In other entries, everyone is dying to be your friend. In this one, you start to realize pretty quickly that not everyone you meet is going to be a ray of light that fixes your day, and you start to depend on the few people in town you can count on, like Tabby and Emerald and Jeremiah. And for that, Animal Crossing is worth giving a go, even if just for a few days. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. It's a little bit different than my normal stuff. I thought it would be a fun little experiment since I've played a ton of Animal Crossing. My girlfriend has not. So it was two different perspectives coming together, and I think we got the point across. But thank you so much for waiting this long for this video if you've been sticking around for a while. This honestly felt like climbing Mount Everest. There's been a lot of stuff going on outside of YouTube that has really either gotten me down or taken up a bunch of my time or just a bunch of things. And if you're following me on Twitter, you probably have seen it. And I just want to thank everyone who reached out and checked on me. I really appreciate it. There's too many people to even thank. I'm still trying to get through them all. But I really appreciate the real friends I've made through this. And even if nothing ever comes out of this, I can say that I met real nice people. And that's kind of hard to say in this day and age online. So thank you very much. Hopefully it won't be as long of a gap until the next video, but things are pretty crazy right now. And I don't want to make any promises I can't keep, so just stay tuned. If you like the video, give me a like. I could really use it. And subscribe if you want to see what's coming down the pipe. I do have other ideas. It's been tough lately. So, anyway, see you later.